This is the story of revenge, belonging to the daughter of a Grand Duke. The main character reflects that although her journey has been filled with joy, it has also been extremely difficult. Along the way, she encounters the Grand Demon King, gains 3 brothers who dote on her, and reunites with someone very dear to her. There's a knock at the door. It's the maid, who informs Dai, our female protagonist. Donna turns toward her and replies that she'll be there soon. This is supposed to be her 500-year-old revenge, or at least, it should have been. The scene shifts. Donna is shown desperately pleading, insisting that she is not the Demon King. However, the mage refuses to believe her and prepares to cast magic against her. In this world, magic and swordsmanship exist side by side. The only Grand Duchy of the Empire is Asanov, and their history is rooted in a legend from 500 years ago. During that time, the Demon King waged war to take the Holy Land protected by divine power. The nations of the continent united, but their combined army couldn't overcome the Demon King. It became clear that defeat was inevitable. Just when hope seemed lost, a hero chosen by the goddess of the stars appeared. Rosunt, the archmage Pamal Asanov. She, along with other mages, managed to seal away the wicked Demon King and drove the surviving demons beyond the Misty Mountains, into the wastelands known as the Demon Realm. Pamal created a magical barrier over the Misty Barrier Mountains to block any future demon invasions and built a fortress underneath it. This place, where the snow never stops falling, came to be known as the Winter Mansion. Since then, the Asanov Grand Duchy has protected it without fail. Pamal swore to guard the Winter Mansion for 500 years, and for 500 years, they have kept their vow without wavering. This legendary story is so well known that even the youngest children of the Empire know it. However, there is a serious error in this tale. The truth is, Pamal never actually defeated the Demon King. You might wonder, how would Dana know this? That's because she was the one who was defeated. A boy calls out to her, drawing closer to check how she's feeling. He is Lucas, the eldest son of the Grand Duke Asanov. Dana can't help but think about how incredibly handsome he is. Another boy comes up behind them and affectionately ruffles Dai's hair. He is Barathan, the second son, and the older twin. His younger twin shoves him away, scolding him for bothering someone who is unwell. Watching these beautiful boys, Donna explains that she had simply been thinking about Asanov's great history and assures them that she feels fine. They all start laughing together. Dana smiles inwardly, thinking that they can laugh all they want. After all, she had once been mistaken for the Demon King, killed by Pamal Asanov, and reincarnated 500 years later as Donov, the Grand Duke's granddaughter. This is exactly the kind of plot she had always dreamed of experiencing. In her previous life, Dana was a humble mage apprentice. Except for her master, Caladrian, she lived hidden away in the Misty Mountains. A memory surfaces. Caladrian once asked her, "Who said we were hiding?" He had insisted that she couldn't appreciate the value of their peaceful, quiet life. She also recalls Renee, who warned her about the Misty Mountains being filled with monsters and beasts. Renee used to tell her, once you get attached to something, it starts feeling like home. But Pookie, never lose your heart to a red flag. I know they might look good, but remember, even now Dana couldn't quite understand what Renee had meant. Renee was the one who raised her. While hiking toward the Misty Mountains, he had found her abandoned in a slum. He sighed, remembering how loudly she had cried, so much that he couldn't bring himself to leave her behind. He had always wondered why no one had come looking for her. Since no one else came for her, Renee decided he had no choice but to raise the child himself. Even though he constantly grumbled about it, Renee taught her everything he knew, right up until the day he suddenly fell ill and passed away. He was a master of knowledge, swordsmanship, and magic, excelling at everything, though he was incredibly strict. After enduring countless grueling training sessions and endless scoldings, Dana finally grew into a full-fledged mage, who was also skilled with a sword. One day, something wonderful happened. Dana excitedly told Renee how amazing it was that even centuries later, the effects of a certain magic potion remained unchanged. Renee nodded, agreeing that with the right technique, objects could preserve their original form and effectiveness for a very long time. Dana marveled at the preservation method and decided she must take notes. Renee, appreciating her enthusiasm, warned her gruffly that he wouldn't help if it backfired again like the last time. He gave off serious grumpy old man vibes. Dana admitted sheepishly that it failed last time because she had forgotten the spell to undo the magic. Renee mused aloud. What if they created a spell using your name? He explained that names carry power. They are unforgettable and very effective in spells. He encouraged her to give it a try. Dana thought it sounded really cool, secretly admiring him as if he were her true parent. Still, part of her wondered, why did Renee choose to live out here in such isolation? Was he a criminal? But even if he was, she didn't care. To Dana, Renee was the most precious person in her world. One of a kind. She simply wanted to live quietly with him, cherishing all their time together. But that peaceful dream shattered one day when the Misty Mountains became strangely noisy. The Misty Mountains were home to many chatty fairies, who constantly gossiped among themselves. Dana overheard one group discussing a ship filled with treasure. One fairy asked, "Isn't it the ship that sank just a few days ago? A celestial ship?" Listening closely, Dana thought to herself that maybe if she could find that treasure, she and Renee could finally enjoy a better life. But she quickly set the idea aside, amused by how the fairies always came to her to chatter. Maybe it was because they found her cute. She liked that idea. Even though the fairies often spoke nonsense, Dana knew there was useful information hidden in their gossip. She chatted with them, commenting on how chaotic the Misty Mountains had become lately. One fairy replied, surprised, "You don't know? The Demon King has made this place his base for the Conquest War. His victory celebrations have been getting crazier and crazier." Dana figured things would settle down soon, but the wild demon parties continued day. After a full month of sleepless nights, Dana snapped. She stormed into the Demon King's palace, bursting open his grand doors, and yelled that she couldn't take it anymore. Seriously, she literally broke the palace door just because she wanted to sleep. Hilarious. Sitting lazily on the throne was the Demon King himself. He looked at her in surprise and asked, "Who are you?" Dana firmly introduced herself as just an ordinary human who couldn't sleep because of their endless parties. She boldly asked if he could either tone it down or move his celebration somewhere else. For a moment, the Demon King just stared at her, stunned. Then, he burst out laughing, finding her absolutely amusing. Amused, but not one to be challenged, he drew his sword, joking about how daring it was for a mere human to confront him, the great Demon King. Dana, seeing that things wouldn't end peacefully, didn't back down. She hadn't trained for years just for show. Without a second thought, she unleashed her magic and knocked the Demon King flat on the ground in an instant. Someone really should give our cute demon a health potion after that beating. Dana stood there in shock, wondering how she had become so strong. Even Renee had never gone easy on her during training, but she had never defeated him so easily. Trembling on the ground, the Demon King admitted she was the first one to ever knock him down. From that moment forward, he and his loyal followers swore their allegiance to her. The once brooding demon warriors now looked oddly happy to have someone new to serve. Dana was left utterly speechless. From that day on, the Demon King dismissed his followers and started trailing after her like an eager puppy. Frustrated, Dana yelled at him, reminding him for what felt like the 100th time that she had no intention of becoming the Demon King. Still, the Demon King stubbornly insisted, saying she had defeated him. Irritated, Dana snapped back, shouting that he could attack her too. And if he won, it would mean he defeated her. Simple as that. But he only looked at her with pitiful, puppy-like eyes and mumbled in a low voice, "How could I ever attempt to defeat the Demon King?" She let out another furious shout, asking if he wasn't tired of this endless nonsense. Wasn't he sick of having the same conversation over and over again? Before she could get an answer, loud voices suddenly echoed around them. Soldiers cried out that they had found the Demon King, and just like that, it always ended the same way. Mistaken for the Demon King, Dana was captured and met her doom, again and again. Yet deep inside, she vowed she would have her revenge. She would never forget Pamel, the so-called hero of the Empire, who caused her such suffering. She couldn't allow herself to die under the weight of injustice. It felt as if she were being crushed by a colossal wave, suffocating her. And, if this went on, she truly believed she would die. Perhaps it was because of her desperate wish back then. But when she next opened her eyes, she found herself lying in a beautiful, unfamiliar room. She could hear voices too. Lucas was speaking, saying that the first priority was to find the mastermind behind the carriage ambush. Sisu guessed that it was likely one of the celestial branches of Asanov behind it. Lucas clenched his teeth in anger, saying whoever dared to scheme against their family just because the Duke had died was gravely mistaken. Now, with the Grand Duke's granddaughter appearing as the heir, things were about to change. Borathon added that they would find out everything during the interrogation of the man they had captured. That was the only reason they hadn't killed him on the spot. Sisu volunteered to handle the interrogation, saying that only he could manage someone so fueled by rage and magic. Donna listened in a daze, trying to process everything. Were these Asanovs the same Asanovs she knew? She honestly had no idea what was happening anymore. Her body felt heavy, like a soaked rag, and her vision remained blurry. Suddenly, she let out a faint sound. Immediately, all three young men rushed to her side, their faces filled with worry. Their voices overlapped as they asked if she could hear them, if she was in pain, if she could remember anything. But all Donna could focus on was one overwhelming thought. Who are these dazzling young men? Finally, she voiced her question aloud. For a moment, the three were stunned into silence. Then, Lucas was the first to respond, calmly introducing himself, one after another. The other two also introduced themselves. They explained to her that all three of them were her brothers. Donna, still completely overwhelmed, decided she needed to organize her thoughts properly. In this life, she had been born into an ordinary family, but she had lost her parents at a very young age. A couple who ran a small business had adopted her. Though they called her their daughter, in truth, she had been treated more like a slave. While Donna was still living at the inn, one day while she was cleaning, she overheard a conversation. Someone mentioned whether anyone had heard the news that the magic barrier of the Misty Mountains had been reawakened. They laughed about it, saying it was great news. After all, the more beasts that appeared, the more mercenaries and mages would come to hunt them, and their inn would be filled with customers. Even the Knights of Asanov were reportedly struggling to control the situation. Just then, a girl approached Donna, commenting with fake concern that her face looked terrible and suggesting she go wash up. Donna knew the girl was doing it on purpose, knowing full well that she couldn't just leave her chores to wash whenever she wished. The girl even pointed out how worn and tattered Donna's dress was, pretending to kindly offer her some used clothes. As Donna hesitated, a man suddenly came by and smacked her, scolding her harshly for spacing out. He barked at her, questioning whether she could even finish her work at this rate. The way he treated her was so brutal it could bring anyone to tears. Even her adopted mother chimed in, calling Donna useless and ungrateful. She cruelly reminded Donna that they had taken her in after her parents were killed by beasts, and hinted darkly that Donna might someday betray their kindness. That night, Donna sat staring at the clothes her younger sister had given her. She was 13 years old, yet clothes from a child 3 years younger were still loose on her thin frame. Her shoes were nothing but scraps, barely holding together. She shared the same purple eyes as her late father, but for that very reason she was treated with disgust and contempt. Even her meals were mere leftovers from the inn's customers. At night she slept in a tiny shed next to the stables, always reeking of horse manure. Every night she dreamed of her real parents, wishing desperately that they would come take her away. Her father, Life, and her mother, Callie, who had both lost their lives trying to save her from the beasts. In her dreams, they always greeted her with big smiles and warm hugs. Those dreams were filled with joy, but the waking reality was nothing but misery. She lived each day in tears, missing her lost family so much that it ached. That painful and exhausting routine, however, was shattered by an unexpected encounter. One night, as she was carrying a water bucket, she froze in disbelief when a knight suddenly appeared before her. She wondered if she was dreaming. The knight, dazzlingly handsome in his polished armor, asked if she was Dai. It was the first time knights had ever come to their humble inn. She nervously answered that she was indeed Dai, asking if he needed her for some work. Standing before him, she noticed how clean and noble he appeared, so different from her own wretched state. Her adopted father scoffed, questioning the knight. Why would a man of high rank come all this way for someone like her? He sneered at Donna, pointing out how she stank of filth, how she was nothing but an embarrassment to even show in public. He mocked the holes in her boots and the shortness of her skirt, and even insulted her purple eyes, the very thing that hurt her most. Those eyes, the ones everyone avoided and whispered about, brought tears to her own gaze. If only, she thought, she could somehow stretch her skirt to cover her ruined shoes. She clenched her fists tightly, thinking she must be crazy to even imagine that something like a fairy tale could happen to her. Then, the knight spoke again. He said that her purple eyes were not ordinary, They were special. Donna's breath caught. Her attention sharpened at his words. He continued, telling her that she was Danov, the granddaughter of Duke Asanov. No way. She could hardly believe it. Finally, a glimmer of hope in her broken life. The knight told her he had come on the Duke's direct orders. He was here to take her away. He promised her that soon enough, she would see just how special she really was. Her adopted father immediately grabbed Donna, shouting and demanding to know who had given the knight permission to take her. He insisted that she was his daughter, and that without his consent, she couldn't be taken away. Then, leaning down close to Donna, he whispered harshly, threatening her to tell the knight she didn't want to leave, unless she wanted to be beaten again with that stick. Hearing this, the knight's eyes grew sharp and cold. "A stick?" he repeated, voice low and dangerous. He stared at the man, the glare in his eyes like blades. "Did you beat her?" he asked. The man, realizing too late what he had done, quickly tried to laugh it off, saying the knight must have misheard him. "How could a father hit his daughter?" he protested, but the knight wasn't listening. Without hesitation, he kicked the man so hard that he slammed into the wall. Donna stood there, frozen, shocked by how terrifying the knight suddenly looked. The knight turned back to her and, in a gentler voice, asked where the man had hit her. Quietly, she pointed to her head and her arms. The knight nodded, then without a moment's pause, grabbed a nearby water-soaked wooden bucket and smashed it over the man's head. He then began hitting him in all the same places Donna had been beaten. Watching it, even Donna felt a chill. This was no ordinary punishment. The knight was making the man feel exactly what Donna had endured for so long. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the knight stopped. Turning back to her with a calm expression, he asked, "Shall we get going now?" Donna nodded slowly, still struggling to process everything that had just happened. They boarded the carriage. As it rolled forward, the knight asked casually, "Isn't the breeze refreshing today?" She couldn't believe it. This was the same man who had beaten her foster father to a pulp just minutes ago. But as she looked outside, taking in the bright blue sky, she realized something. Since the day her parents had died, it was the first time she had ever seen such a beautiful sky. Maybe, just maybe, she was finally escaping that miserable life. But her moment of peace didn't last long. Out of nowhere, the carriage was struck by magic. Violently attacked by assassins, everything descended into chaos. The knight immediately barked orders, telling someone to report the situation. But the coachman froze in panic. They had been ambushed from the west. More enemies were likely lying in wait ahead. And poor Donna, in the confusion, she was flung into the air, hurtling toward the ocean below. The knight looked on, terror flashing across his face. Whether from fear for her life or fear of losing his job was unclear. She plunged into the freezing water. As she sank, Donna could only think, why can't my life ever just be peaceful? Honestly, relatable. But something good did come out of it. Falling into the water triggered the return of her past life's memories. Though, personally, she thought she would have happily lived without remembering any of it. Still, in a weird way, it was a win-win. She surfaced from the water not just as Donna, but as someone who remembered everything. And with those memories came a flood of anger. In her previous life, she had been mistaken for a demon and killed by Pamalarcha. Her dreams, her future, everything had been ripped away from her. Now, clenching her teeth so hard it felt like they might crack, she swore she would get her revenge. She smiled, not sweetly, but with fierce determination. Thanks to Fane's brutal training, she had the magic. Thanks to her past life's experiences, she had the motivation. And now, thanks to fate tossing her into this world again, she had the opportunity. How fitting, she thought, that her current name was the same as her last name, almost like destiny itself was telling her. This time, make it count. She remembered Renee telling her once, "There is power in the name of one." Smiling to herself, she thought maybe this was it, compensation for her unfair death. Maybe the God who lifted her soul back then had given her another chance to live. Her heart felt lighter, a rare brightness filling her chest. Yes, that must be it. Meanwhile, Berthan was speaking to Lucas, saying he was about to introduce Donna properly. He strode toward her, tall and confident, towering over her. To Donna, he felt strangely familiar, like someone she had bumped into once before in her past life. She smiled softly as he introduced himself, but before he could introduce Cess, in a way that made him sound like some weakling, Cess lunged at him from behind. "Ignore him," Cess said cheerfully to Donna. "He's just a fool." She blinked, wondering how these two were even twins. Lucas laughed and explained that even though they called each other brothers, none of them were related by blood. All of them had been adopted. Barathon added that it was the old man who took them in, Grand Duke Asanov, her grandfather. Hearing that, Donna nodded slowly, remembering overhearing bits of that story at the inn. Still, she wondered if it could really be true. "You're really the Duke's granddaughter," Barathon confirmed, as if reading her doubts. "And what else could explain those eyes of yours?" But then, as if something just struck him, he paused. He frowned dramatically and bent down to pick her up like she was a feather. She gasped in surprise. "So light!" he cried, almost weeping. "How pitiful! How can a descendant of Asanov be so skinny and frail?" To them, she looked like a tiny, abandoned puppy. Cess reached over and lightly slapped Barathon's arm. "Don't compare her to that," he said. "Di's actually really cute, you know." Barathon sighed heavily. "Still, we'll have to fix this before the old man returns from the capital." Lucas nodded seriously. "If we don't, he'll think we've been mistreating her." Cess, in his usual sarcastic, sticky-sweet tone, added, "Barathon's an idiot. But for once, I agree with him." Donna, still dazed by everything, wasn't sure she fully understood what they meant by discipline. Barathon poked her gently, grinning. "Rejoice, little one. We're going to teach you how to live like a proper lady." Honestly, it didn't sound like good news at all. A little later, the brats, as Donna now thought of them, excitedly dragged her to a huge room. She stood in the doorway, completely stunned. The room was beautiful, so much so that she wondered if this was even real. Barathon laughed at her expression. "Still doubting?" he teased. "You look like someone just handed you the whole world." He told her that even Hedon had recognized her the moment he saw her. At the mention of that name, Donna tilted her head. Hedon? Right on cue. A familiar voice called her name. She turned, and there he was, the knight who had rescued her from the inn. Hedon stood there, smiling warmly. "It's good to see you again," he said. Lucas explained that Hedon already knew everything, and that from now on, he would be Donna's personal escort. She didn't need to be afraid of anything anymore. "And there's one more person," Lucas added. A woman dressed neatly in a beautiful maid's uniform stepped forward. "This is Marina," Lucas said. "She'll be your maid from now on." Donna could hardly believe it. Even the maid was better dressed than she had ever been. Marina greeted her with a soft smile and a polite curtsy. Donna just stared, wide-eyed. An elegant maid. A personal knight. A beautiful room filled with luxurious furniture and artwork. Was this really her life now? It felt too much like a dream. Marina approached her gently. "Shall we?" she asked with a twinkle in her eye. Donna blinked. "Go where?" It turned out, to the bath. Marina helped her prepare while silently noticing the marks of past abuse on Donna's body. She said nothing, but her hands were gentle. Next came the clothes. It was the first time Donna had ever worn a proper dress. She stood there awkwardly as Hedon and Marina exchanged glances. The dress was clearly too big for her tiny frame. Hedon looked confused. Why was the dress so loose? They had gotten it in her size, or at least what they thought was her age. Meanwhile, Donna thought to herself that it made sense. She hadn't been able to eat properly at the inn, and she was much smaller than her peers because of it. Still, she was just happy. She beamed at Marina and said, "Really like it. It doesn't rub against my skin either. And it's just like the dress I always wore in my dreams. Even better, it smelled so nice, like fresh flowers on her skin." While brushing her hair, Marina gently said, "Your hair is really fine and soft, my lady." Donna blushed a little, feeling Marina's careful hands move expertly through her hair. Marina was so skillful, it made the whole moment feel almost magical. For a while, Donna forgot all about the dark storm brewing inside her, about the truth she could never ignore. They had wrongly accused the immortal Poria and killed it. She couldn't live a happy, fake little life built on top of such a betrayal. Above all, being the granddaughter of the Duke meant she was a descendant of the Pamel Archangels. But if Pamel was no longer in this world, then who exactly was she supposed to take revenge on now? Another harsh realization hit her. Although she still had all the magical knowledge from her previous life, her mana, the power to use that magic, was gone. Grinding her teeth, but not too terrifyingly this time, she decided she would do whatever it took to regain her mana. If it weren't for that cursed Pamel, she stopped herself. Actually, this situation wasn't the worst. She glanced over at Marina, who smiled at her so warmly that Donna felt a strange comfort. Maybe she could start her revenge tomorrow. "Honestly, this girl is just like me," the narrator jokes, pushing all her problems to tomorrow. At this rate, She's gonna get kicked out of life like I'm gonna get kicked out of my job. The next day, Marina packed a small basket of food for Donna's walk. She even tucked in some chocolate cookies with a secret little smile. Donna thanked her sincerely. Hedin, ever the knight, offered to carry the basket for her. Donna gave him a bright, innocent smile. The perfect camouflage for what she was actually planning. Because while it looked like a leisurely stroll, it was really a scouting mission. If I can't bring down the Asanov faction head-on, she thought, then I'll pretend to be the sweetest, most obedient little girl. I'll earn their trust, burrow deep inside, and when they least expect it, I'll bring them down, slow and steady, like rain soaking into stone. Truly, she was a cute little baddie. Renee's voice echoed in her memory, once asking, "How will you defeat your enemies?" Donna had answered simply, "Hide my true intentions, hide my abilities, make them underestimate me, understand both my enemies and their territory first." Now, while pretending to enjoy her innocent walk, she began mapping the Asanov mansion layout in her head. Her dark intentions were tucked safely behind her innocent face. Hayden smiled warmly beside her. "I'm glad you liked the snacks," he said. Donna, bursting with excitement over her secret plans, told him to hurry up already. Just then a voice called out, sharp and teasing, "What the hell are you doing dressed like that?" She turned to see Ceci standing there, arms crossed, eyebrows raised. "Don't tell me you've been wandering around like this the whole time," he said, frowning. "And what happened to the clothes we prepared for you?" Donna blinked innocently and replied, "These are the clothes you gave me." Cease looked even more confused. "Aren't you 13? Why do your clothes look like they're swallowing you?" Donna shrugged, feeling a little embarrassed. "It's just, I'm a little small for my age." Despite his sharp tongue, Donna couldn't help but notice how handsome Saz was. Even when he was saying the worst things, he looked dazzling, like a character from a painting. The clothes he wore fit him perfectly, as if they were made just for him. Meanwhile, she looked down at herself and thought that her own outfit didn't even feel like it truly belonged to her. Still, she muttered under her breath, "Nobody said my outfit looked strange." Sez snorted, crossing his arms. "Obviously, no one else in the mansion would dare say anything to you. Only I can." He then narrowed his eyes at her and added, "And seriously, what were you even eating growing up to end up looking like a straw doll?" "That was it." Donna puffed up in anger. "What can I do if I'm smaller than most people my age?" she snapped. Still fuming, she pointed out, "If I just roll up the sleeves a little, it'll look fine." She began rolling them up, but as she did, Sess caught sight of the bruises scattered along her arms. His expression shifted instantly. Now he understood what Barathon meant when he said she was as light as a feather. Donna, unaware of his thoughts, looked up at him confused. Before she could react, Sess moved in a swift motion, and suddenly, she was in the air. Using magic, he had lifted her with ease. She gawked at him in disbelief. She had always assumed he was fragile because of his refined appearance, but no, this guy was ridiculously powerful. Sez, still carrying her effortlessly, said aloud, "Even someone like me has enough strength to lift you." Donna narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "Did someone say something to you?" she asked. He chuckled, looking at her warmly. "No need. Your eyes say it all." And with that, he turned and began walking away with her. "Hey, where are you taking me?" she shouted, flailing a little. "You'll find out soon enough," he said over his shoulder, not slowing down at all. Poor Hedin was left standing there, looking utterly abandoned. After being practically kidnapped by Sez, Donna wondered why he kept staring at her like that. There was still that strange, magical energy she felt earlier. She just couldn't figure him out. "Maybe I'll make him one of my targets too," she thought mischievously. She looked around the room. It was almost completely empty. Barely any furniture at all. "Why did he bring me to this place?" she wondered. She glanced over at Sess again. He was still staring at her with that unreadable expression. Feeling awkward, she looked at her basket of cookies. Eating cookies alone isn't ideal, she thought. I should act like a good kid and share. She hesitantly asked, "Do you want some almond cookies?" Truth was, she hated almond cookies. Cease gave her a blank look and said, "I'm not hungry." Donna pushed, trying to look as sweet as possible. "They're really yummy." In the distance, poor Hedin had a front row seat to this painfully awkward conversation. He fought back laughter as he watched it unfold. CS raised a brow. "If they're so good, why don't you just eat them yourself?" he said bluntly. Donna pouted. "I have too many." "That's why I want to share," Sez sighed heavily, clearly getting annoyed. Just eat them all yourself. Defeated, Donna drooped her shoulders and muttered, "Okay, such a pity," she thought sadly. It was the perfect chance to get rid of something I hate. Saz glanced at her, and for a moment, he saw it. The way she genuinely looked like an abandoned little puppy. Guilt stabbed at him. He scratched the back of his head awkwardly, feeling miserable. Meanwhile, Donna made a mental note. I need to tell the kitchen to stop making almond cookies. CS let out another long, dramatic sigh. Donna blinked up at him, wondering why he seemed so troubled. Suddenly, Sez reached out and grabbed her hand, the one holding the cookie. Before she could react, he leaned in close, way too close, and took a bite right from her hand. Flustered beyond words, Donna froze. He told her seriously, "Eat properly, you're too skinny." Donna just stared at him, dazed and red-faced. Just then, someone coughed, loudly. It was Hedon, trying and failing to hide his laughter. Sess turned to glare at him. "What are you doing standing there? Who's at the door?" he barked. Still chuckling, Hedon said, "I'm taking it now." Soon after, several extravagant dresses and beautiful shoes were brought in. Donna looked at them in shock. What is all this? She wondered, overwhelmed. Sess called her over and, like a big brother scolding a messy child, began wiping her mouth carefully. "You shouldn't let people see you with crumbs on your face," he muttered. "It's embarrassing. Bro is just way too obsessed with his little sister." The servants, seeing Sess act this way, could hardly believe their eyes. Sess immediately turned and snapped at them. "What are you all staring at? Got nothing better to do?" In a flash, all the servants scattered and hurried back to work. Turning back to Donna, he sighed. "Go get changed." She pouted. "Why should I?" Cease rubbed his temples as if dealing with a headache. "Seriously? You want your brother to just stand here, watching you walk around in clothes 3 times too big?" Faced with that bluntness, Donna was truly at a loss for words. "Love you, cuties. Have a great day. Feel free to drop a comment if you want me to rant more between these scenes. I just love chatting too.